Q. Discuss the impact of globalization on Indian tribal communities. 250 words. Q. Discuss the impact of globalization on Indian tribal communities. 2. Background. Tribal people constitute 8.6% of the nation's total population, over 104 million people according to the 2011 census. The forest occupies a central position in tribal culture and economy. The tribal way of life is very much dictated by the forest right from birth to death. In spite of the protection given to the tribal population by the Constitution of India, tribals still remain the most backward ethnic group in India. Globalization has various dimensions which sometimes affect tribal communities positively and sometimes negatively. Impact. Resource exploitation, the policy of liberalization and the new state perceptions of utilization of resources are diametrically opposed to the Adivasi worldview of resource exploitation, and this divide has only widened further with the intrusion of globalization's market-oriented philosophy of development. The recent rapid technological advancement and unrivaled economic and political strength of world capitalism have created favorable conditions for the evasion and extraction of natural resources from the ecologically fragile territories of tribal people. All available lost laws relating to lands, forests, minor forest produce, water resources, etc. restrain people from using forests. Primary resources such as fuel, fodder and minor forest produce which were available free to villagers are today either non-existent or have to be brought commercially. For the tribals, globalization is associated with rising prices, loss of job security and lack of health care. Displacement. Since the emergence of liberalization, privatization and globalization (LPG), the areas inhabited by tribal population have been subject to various protests due to involuntary displacement. Thus, forced evictions of tribals make way for mammoth capital-intensive development projects have become the distressing routine and ever-increasing phenomenon. Vested interests, in the name of upgradation of lifestyle of poor indigenous tribal people, the market forces have created wealth for their interests at the cost of livelihood and security of these tribes in the areas. Unemployment. There is a heavy concentration of industrial and mining activities in the Central Belt. Despite intense industrial activity in the Central Indian Tribal Belt, the tribal employment in modern enterprises is negligible. Apart from the provisions of Apprenticeship Act, there is no stipulation for private or joint sector enterprises to recruit certain percentage of dispossessed tribal workforce. They are forced onto the ever-expanding low-paid, insecure, transient and destitute labor market. About 40% of the tribals of Central India supplement their income by participating in this distorted and overexploitative capitalist sector. Affecting social life, many more are slowly crushed into oblivion in their homeland or in urban slums. Their economic and cultural survival is at stake. The globalization behemoth has added new dimensions to the vulnerability of India's downtrodden by exacerbating their social exclusion, and making large segments of tribal groups also vulnerable and excluded, leading to subnational movements. Inadequate social and economic infrastructure in areas that have insufficient resources for participation in mainstream development also has been at the root of various subnational movements such as the Jharkhand, Uttarakhand and Badaland. Tribal women. Tribal forest economy is primarily the women's economy, and it is women who are most directly affected by the corporate exploitation of their traditional lands. In poverty-stricken tribal areas, large-scale migration has revealed the increasing movement of young women towards urban centers in search of work. Their living conditions are unhygienic, the salary is poor, and tribal women are vulnerable to exploitation by unscrupulous agents. They have become the prime targets of sexual violation by managers, supervisors, and even fellow male workers in the plantation industrial sectors. Construction sites, such as mines and quarries, and industrial complexes spelled doom for the local Adivasi communities with the influx of immigrant laborers. Tribals are being forcefully integrated into the society, leading to them losing their unique cultural features and their habitat threatened.